Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Should Have Gone Pro podcast. We are back again after an entertaining weekend of wildcard football. We have plenty to talk about, including some of our picks that went right and one that went very wrong. But um, Brock, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Ready. Like I said, not quite the wild card weekend I was expecting. A lot of blowouts. But Cincinnati hung in there, and the road to the Super Bowl begins. Eric, we're good. The bandwagon's still going strong.
Yeah, your Bengals bandwagon is still in got all four wheels going. So, um, but yeah, it was exciting at the start. We had surprising amount of blowouts, even though some obviously with the Chiefs and Steelers we kind of expected it to be that way, but um, we both picked the Patriots to upset the Bills, and boy, were we wrong about that. I couldn't even watch past the third quarter. It was hard to watch. Um, and then the one last night as well, Rams Cardinals, we thought was going to be arguably the best game of the weekend, was just awful. The Cardinals just totally pooped the bed, and it's kind of hard to believe. But what would you say was your biggest your biggest surprise of the weekend? Was it that Cardinals Rams game or something else you saw?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna have to go that Bills Patriots game. I don't think anyone expected a Bill Belichick coach team to get blown out that bad in
Yeah,
the playoffs. I thought they'd be a lot better prepared. But I mean, when you look at what Josh Allen did in that game, I mean, he had five touchdowns, only 4 incompletions, and really they put the game away. I really thought it was over. Buffalo went up 7-0. The Patriots were driving down the field, got to midfield, maybe into the Buffalo Bills territory. Mack threw a pick in the end zone, and then the Bills obviously went right back down the field, scored. They went 7 for 7 on their touchdown drives. First time that's ever happened in NFL history. And I mean,
jeez,
the thing about Mack has been all year, he's struggled when he's been behind in football games, and they can't rely on the run game to bring them back or keep the game close. I thought the Patriots defense didn't show up at all. They weren't prepared. I mean, I think it's pretty crazy when you look at the stat sheet. Stephon Diggs really didn't have that big of an impact. It was more Dawson Knox. I think Stephon Diggs, 3 catches for only 60 yards. And I'm pretty sure one of them was a chunk play that ate up a lot of his yards right there. So, I mean, when you think about the Patriots pretty much neutralizing Stephon Diggs as a defensive unit, and the Bills were still able to put up 47 points, I think that's just a credit to what Buffalo can do and how explosive they can be offensively. It was impressive to see how they ran the football. I think that's been their one kind of Achilles heel all year is their
hmm
ability to run the football, and they really committed to it this game. I mean, Devin Singletary had another big game. Josh Allen, of course, always gets it done with his legs, and I think that game was the one that kind of surprised me. I expected it to be a lot closer due to the weather in Buffalo and kind of the inclement conditions they were playing in. But, I mean, all hats off to Buffalo. They showed up. New England didn't, and they punched them in the mouth really from the kickoff. And to jump out to the lead they did, there was nothing New England was going to be able to do to get back into that game. And I'm looking forward to the AFC Championship rematch from last year between the Bills and the Chiefs in the second round.
yeah, I am too. The two things that we said in our prediction podcast was that for the Patriots to win was going to be because the weather was going to be bad. I think we thought it might snow during the game, but it ended up not snowing at all. And then we thought that the Pats defense would really step up and have a pretty strong defense the whole year. And it it was the exact opposite because it was super super cold, but there wasn't any snow or anything like that. And then the Pats defense just didn't show up to the field at all. Um, and that defense has some pretty big names on it, and I didn't hear any of them called the entire night. Uh, the run game, like we mentioned for the Bills, was the one area we thought that might be a problem, and if they can force them to pass every play, it's a lot more predictable, and they're able to mix it in well. And Buffalo really got back to their peak form when they went to the AFC Championship last year, and I think from a neutral fan perspective, it's a great thing to see this Bills Chiefs matchup again. I think that the Bills are ready this time. I think the Chiefs are their defense can still be a little bit questionable, but um, the Bills' defense really showed up a lot too, and that was we had faith in the Bills' defense, but we thought people were still able to score on them, and it was not the case at all. Um, Mac Jones showed that he was a rookie. He had a great year for a rookie as a quarterback into the playoffs and everything, and almost winning the AFC East, but just too inconsistent. Which it's hard to expect a rookie quarterback to go in there and dominate his first ever playoff game like that. So everything that could have went wrong for the Pats went wrong, and it got to the point where it was almost hard to watch just because of how lopsided it was, and every strength that the Pats had was kind of just neutralized. So it's going to be a great one next week. I think it's the nightcap on Sunday is the last game of the weekend is the Bills Chiefs one, and everyone's going to have their TVs turned to that one because I think the Bills have a great chance to steal that. I don't know if they will, but I think they have a great chance to go in there and really, if they play to their potential like they did last weekend, I don't see why they couldn't potentially go in there and win. So it's going to be great. The other shocker was last night the Cardinals and the Rams, and I picked the Rams. You picked the Cardinals, and I said it could go either way when I was making my prediction, and it was totally lopsided. The Kyler Murray had one of his worst games of his life. Um, I know this is his first ever playoff game, but he just didn't show up at all. He was making very bad decisions. I think the turning point in the game was when he was to that pick six in the end zone, and he was like standing in the back of his end zone for like 5 seconds trying to figure out where to throw the ball. But veteran quarterback, especially in the playoffs, he's not a veteran, but the veteran quarterbacks in the playoffs got to know I got to get this ball out if I'm in my own end zone, because if I hold on too long, bad things are going to happen. And it's exactly what happened. And he tried to get rid of it and save the day. And after that, it just went downhill. Stafford had a solid game. They really got the run game going, which took pressure off of Stafford. As a Detroit guy, could not be happier to see Stafford get his first playoff win. Even though he's not with the Lions anymore, I have never but respect for that guy. So I'm very happy that he has a playoff under his belt now. But that Rams team just put a complete game, and it was very similar to that Buffalo New England game. But I thought this one personally was a little more shocking.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think the reason I picked Arizona, I figured that Matt Stafford would make a key mistake like he has done at some points during this season. He's been a little bit careless with the football at times. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, he played, I don't want to say a perfect football game, but I mean, the way that LA, I almost said Detroit, LA was able to get the run game going. I mean, I think it's incredible what Cam Akers has been able to do. Tore his Achilles, I think, before the season started, and to even be able to come back and do what he did in the playoff game and be effective was just hats off to him. And that's incredible. I mean, I think these athletes really are built different.
Oh yeah.
And the stars for LA really showed up. I think this is the reason they went out and got some of these guys, in the trade for Matt Stafford. 2 touchdowns last night, was efficient, didn't turn the ball over, made the smart play. And then you look, Von Miller on the other side on defense, got him in a midseason trade with Denver. He had a sack, was in the backfield, forcing pressure on Kyler Murray all night, as well as the rest of the Rams defense. And then OBJ, everyone kind of casted him aside, said that he was the problem in Cleveland. And I think he really showed that maybe it was on the guy under center, and him and Baker Mayfield just didn't have that connection for some reason, because he's an incredible talent. I mean, he caught a touchdown to start the game, had that really nice pass down the field, which is something we haven't seen since his New York Giant days.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think the Rams just really played a complete football game. You can't turn the ball over in the playoffs, and you certainly can't do it on your side of the field or allow defensive touchdowns. And unfortunately, the Cardinals did that. Kyler Murray had one of the worst games, like you mentioned, of his career. And it'll be interesting to see how they rebound coming into next year. I think the best medicine sometimes, and that was his first playoff start, Kyler Murray. I think he'll only benefit from this. This is going to be a learning experience. This Arizona Cardinals team is loaded with talent on both sides of the ball. It was good to see J.J. Watt come back and make his return in the playoffs. It was good to see him in the playoffs again after a couple of years of not making it on some pretty bad Houston Texans teams. So I think Arizona is going to be well. I think this was a good learning experience for them, and I'm interested to see what they're going to do in the offseason as well as all of next season. And I think that Rams team has gotten hot at the right time. They played well against Arizona, went up 21-0 at halftime, coming off a big win. It'll be interesting to see what they can do against Tampa Bay. I think similarly, Tampa Bay's hurt pretty banged up right now. They lost a couple offensive linemen. They're down 2 receivers. So I think Jalen Ramsey is going to match up well with Mike Evans. It'll be interesting to see who on that Bucs offense will be able to make enough plays in the receiving game to move the ball down the field against that good Rams defense. And I think, I'm excited. That's the matchup I'm most excited for. I think next weekend is the Rams Tampa Bay game. 2 heavyweights in the NFC going at it for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned, Cam Akers' injury a little bit ago. I heard on the broadcast last night they said that the doctor who performed the surgery said it was repairing the Achilles was like trying to tie the ends of 2 mops together, which just sounds, one, extremely painful, but 2, extremely difficult. So props to all those medical guys in the sports field that are able to get that stuff done, because that just sounds ridiculous to have this guy get hurt in the field and he comes into your hospital and they're like, hey, you need to repair this Achilles, just like that. And it's that kind of put it into perspective for me a little bit, because you hear about this stuff all the time, but that's kind of wicked to think about. But yeah, that Rams team played a complete game. I'm a little scared for my Tampa pick, because the Rams are like you said, are getting hot at the right time. I'm a little scared about that. The one thing I can see that might lean Tampa's way is the inexperience of Stafford, getting to that point, and now he'll be going on the road for a playoff game. I think being at home in LA really helped out, kind of calm the nerves a little bit, because when you get traded for their starting quarterback, 2 firsts and a third, I mean, there's some high expectations on you no matter how you look at it. So I think it was really good for him to at least get that win under his belt to give him some confidence. I think it really helped that he was at home too, to kind of calm those nerves, because if he lost that game last night, there'd be a lot of question marks from people. Was it worth the trade? Because they had success with Goff that was very similar to what they've had with Stafford. And I think Stafford's proving that it was worth the deal, especially since they're going to have him for a couple more years. So, but I think that it's going to be a real tough game in Tampa for both sides. Mostly.
I think especially if LA was able to get the run game working effectively against Arizona, and you really can't. Tampa Bay shown all year that you really are not going to come in there and run on that front 7 and that defense in general. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what LA is able to do if they're not able to run the ball and it's more on Stafford's shoulders. If he's going to take a little bit more risk and knows he has to be more loose, I don't want to say loose with the football, but knows he has to take chances down the field if that's going to come back and bite him like it has at some points this year. But if LA is able to run the ball on Tampa successfully like they were in this game, I think that will very much bode well for LA and take a little bit of the pressure off Matt Stafford's shoulders.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that's going to be kind of the X factor, because they did a great job stopping the Eagles, who had the best running game stat-wise in the NFL as a team this season, and they really shut them down. That forced Hurts to throw, and he was just missing a lot of throws, and I think that would be the difference. Stafford's obviously better than Hurts, but it'll being able to hold down the run game, which really gave them that leverage last night, is going to make a difference. I'm still sticking by my Tampa pick, but I think it's going to be a super close one, and we cannot be making any kind of mistakes in that game, or else there's going to be some problems. So, as far as Arizona goes, I feel like not that their season's over. It's kind of been a rinse and repeat the past couple of years. I mean, this is the first time we're in the playoffs in a number of years, but it's been a rinse and repeat of starting the season hot and then just really cooling off at the end of the year and falling apart. I mean, they were 2 games ahead in the division with 5 games left, and they found a way to lose it, and then get smoked in the playoff game against that same team they lost it to. It's got to sting for the Cardinals really bad, knowing that you had that in your grasp, and then you go lose to several teams you shouldn't have lost to. They lost to the Lions bad in Detroit, and then the Rams lost in the last week. And if the Cardinals would have beaten the Seahawks, who are not good this year, they would have won the division, and that game would have been at home, which could have been a whole different story. And it was they lost to the Seahawks, so their late season composure really fell apart, and it's happened the last couple of years as well. They could have gotten the playoffs last year, but they missed it because they fell apart, and that's something that they're going to need to look into and try and figure out how they can keep that composure all year long. Because at the beginning of the year, I thought they were going to be a legit Super Bowl contender. That they were playing, started off, I believe, 7-0, and they looked like they were the team to beat, and it turned into the exact opposite at the end. So, unfortunate for Cardinal fans, but that's the way that the cookie crumbled once again this year. But yeah, I was mentioning the Eagles-Bucks game a little bit. That one, it was 31-0, so the scoreboard looks a little different now, 31-15 at the final. Looks a little closer than it actually was, but Brady got back to his postseason form. They really were able to shut down Hurts and the running game as well. I think they knew that if they could stop the run game, then Hurts just wasn't ready to be in that big time game like that. The Tampa run game got going even without Fournette, who was supposed to play and ended up not playing. They got some good contributions, some guys that were kind of filling in, and it worked out well. So it was an all-around complete game for Tampa, kind of a little bit of a confidence booster. And if they're able to get at least one or two injured linemen back next week, which I'm hearing Jensen may be able to come back, but Wirfs is on the fence. So if they're able to get at least one of those two guys back, I think it's going to bode well for them. And it was kind of a little bit of a good win and a little bit of a confidence booster. One thing I think about the scheduling now with the 7 teams and the 2 seed having to play is we'll have to look this week and see if it really affects the Titans or the Packers. But having that extra week against a team that's not super great, I mean, the Eagles aren't bad, but they obviously weren't ready to compete for a title this year. And people wonder if having this extra game for that high seed really keeps some momentum going, and if there's rust for the 1 seed. So that's something to pay attention to and see if it benefits the Bucks or if it doesn't matter for the Packers. But it'll be interesting to watch as well. But what are your thoughts on some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think the questions are only going to increase for Philadelphia about Jalen Hurts' future with the team. I think he had an okay year when Philadelphia was able to run the ball and he could do things with his legs. He's obviously a lot more effective. That was his problem. Even going back to college at Alabama, he was benched in the national championship game against Georgia, and Tua came in and saved the day. He ultimately ended up transferring to Oklahoma and put together a good season for Lincoln Riley. And there was always questions about his accuracy coming into the NFL, and it really hasn't improved all that much. He was 23 of 43 in this game. And if Jalen Hurts has to throw it 43 times, Philadelphia is probably not going to win a lot of football games. He's just not there yet. I would still like to see him maybe one more year with another year under Sirianni with that offense, see if he can develop even more. I think this is another one of those, his first playoff start, a chip on the shoulder game. He didn't play particularly well. He obviously knows that. And I think it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I mean, they have 3 first-round picks next year, I believe.
Yeah.
And it would not shock me at all if they use those in a package to go get a Russell Wilson, even maybe a Jimmy Garoppolo and Aaron Rodgers. If you strike out on Rodgers and Wilson, Garoppolo wouldn't be a horrible option. And I think Philadelphia has some of the pieces there. Devontae Smith's a great young wide receiver. Dallas Goedert just got an extension as a great tight end. They've got a couple good backs. Their offensive line and their defensive line are both aging a little bit. Their secondary has been, I think, their one weak point this year. So I think Philadelphia has some pieces in place. They just need to shore up a couple of those key positions on the back end of their defense and on their offensive line. And if they can figure out the quarterback, whether that is Jalen Hurts or bringing somebody else in off the streets, I think Philadelphia has a potential to be right back in the playoffs next year, given Washington had a down year and the New York Giants seemingly are a mess every single year.
Yeah.
And then I think on the other side for Tampa, it was just business as usual. Tom Brady does what he does. I thought Philadelphia made it way too easy. He was so many dump down quick passes for Brady. They moved it down the field, up and down, like you mentioned, 31-0 lead. Going into the fourth quarter, Philadelphia got 2 garbage time touchdowns to make it seem like it was a lot closer, but this game was not. It was 17-0 at halftime. And I think Philadelphia fans like, okay, maybe we have a chance if we can come out here and score. I think they got the ball first coming out of halftime. But when they were unable to score there, you really all the momentum that you could have had from that drive was gone. Went right back to Tampa Bay. They were on the road. Tampa was at home with that great fan base that was loud. And I think that that's why Tampa Bay brought Tom Brady here to win playoff games. And it's just business as usual. I don't know what more you can say about it at this point. I mean, the guy's a no doubt Hall of Famer, obviously, greatest quarterback to ever play. And it'll be interesting to see what set up a good matchup with the Rams in the divisional round.
Yeah, I agree. Like I was saying, I think it's a great tune-up game to make sure they got everything cooking well for when they get into like the Rams, and if they win that, and the Packers win against the Packers, and things like that as well. Not overlooking any of those games, but you know what I mean. But yeah, so the other side, who will be playing the Tampa and the Rams, we have the Packers who had their bye week, and then the Cowboys 49ers game, which was one of our closest games of the weekend. I thought one of the most entertaining games of the weekend as well. Dallas really started off to a very slow start, and then Niners took advantage of that. Deebo Samuel, like we mentioned in our picks, which we both picked Niners, by the way, so props to us for that a little bit. But Deebo had a fantastic game, again proving that he's that Swiss Army knife guy for them. Garoppolo didn't look terrible. I think he definitely looked like he's good enough to go out there and win playoff games, and I think he still gets a little bit too much hate and pressure on him because he does get injured a lot, which isn't totally his fault. And then he's got Trey Lance sitting behind him, which people are just clamoring for him to see what he can do. So there's a lot of question marks and pressure on Garoppolo, and he was able to go in and play a pretty decent game. So what really stood out to me, though, was Niners defense, which we both questioned a little bit in our picks. We still chose Niners anyway, but we still felt a little bit of pressure about, especially their secondary being a little questionable and not knowing how they'd hold up against that high-powered Dallas offense. And they really made Dak confused. I mean, that was one of the worst games from Dak that I've seen in a while, too. He just looked like he just didn't have rhythm with anybody. He was missing throws and that he normally makes. CeeDee Lamb was barely even involved in the game plan at all. Zeke Elliott was playing. I think he had a ligament tear in his leg, but he just played through it anyway. And there was a lot of things that were going wrong for Dallas, just not clicking at all. Niners took full advantage of every situation they could possibly get. And then obviously the crazy ending, which I mean was just all over the place. I know I was watching it with my dad in the living room. My mom was walking through and she was hearing us yelling stuff about what was happening because there was so many crazy calls with there was some pass interference calls, and then they called Deebo. He got the first down, then he didn't get the first down, and then obviously Dak with the QB draw, which is very, very questionable looking back at that. I don't know how Jerry Jones felt about that, but Mike McCarthy might have a little bit of a talking in Jerry Jones' office. But it was all over the place and a lot of fun for a person that's not invested in one of those teams. But I can't imagine if I was a Dallas United fan watching that. But personally, I think that they should have taken one or two chances they had from the 35, 40-yard line to the end zone. Instead of trying to squeeze in one play from the 25, I'd rather have two from the 40. So that's just me, though. But Dallas just found every way to keep the game alive, and at the end, they hurt themselves. So I thought it was a fun game to watch, but Niners definitely deserve that win. They played a lot more complete game, and I think they have a legit chance against the Packers. I don't think they'll win personally, but I do think they have a legit chance to win that game, or at least give them a good run for their money. If you look back in the regular season, the Niners went into Lambeau and forced Rodgers to lead them down a drive with no timeouts and under a minute to get a game-winning field goal. So this Niners team is definitely capable of going in there and giving them a run for their money. I don't think they'll be able to pull out the win, but I think it could honestly go either way with this one. This Niners team definitely proved a lot of people wrong this year, including myself, and they're I think they have a great foundation to build upon. So, what are your opinions about that Dallas play calling and what all happened in that game and about this next matchup?
Yeah, no, I think the very questionable quarterback draw at the end of the game with 14 seconds. I think there was a lot better options there. As you mentioned, I think Dallas even could have went for like a quick pass to the sideline, just get out of bounds, get him a little bit closer, as opposed to Dak. I mean, they had no timeouts left, and they're running up the middle. He got 15 yards, but it burned off all the time they needed to be able to have enough time to spike the ball and get another playoff. And like you said, I would much rather have a couple chances at the end zone, because if he would have spiked it, there would have been 1-2 seconds left. You have one play anyway. At that point, Niners are just back on the goal line playing prevent, don't allow a touchdown. But I think the Niners definitely played a great – they deserved to win that game. Dallas just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Every time they had a chance to get off the field on defense or get a first down on offense, it felt like there was an untimely penalty. I think I looked back at the stats. Dallas had 14 penalties in this game for 89 yards. That's just undisciplined football. You don't deserve to win playoff games like that, and oftentimes you don't win playoff games like that. 49ers did a great job of stopping Dallas's run, and I think the main reason was Dallas stopped trying to run the ball once they got down early in the game. I think Jimmy Garoppolo had a really good first half, ball managing, ball control, just taking the easy throws. Struggled a little bit in the second half through that really bad interception that left the door open for Dallas, and they took advantage of it. Credit to them, picking it off and turning it into points. That's what you have to do in the playoff games when you force those turnovers, is you have to score not just field goals, but 7 points every time. Dallas was able to do that. And then that throw down the field to Ayuk when Ayuk absolutely burns Trayvon Diggs. Listen, I know the season he had, he's a first-team All-Pro with the 11 picks, but I personally just think the guy is way overrated. He's just way too aggressive for man-to-man coverage. He's a ball hawk, and he bites so much on some of those fakes. I think Ayuk ran an in and then an out move and burned him and was wide open down the field. And if Garoppolo could have hit that throw with I think it was about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I mean, Ayuk was wide open. I don't think there was a Dallas Cowboy within 10 yards of him. He probably walks into the end zone and scores, game over. Even if he doesn't, that's a huge first down, keeps the drive alive, and runs time off the clock. I think Garoppolo just makes it a little bit too hard sometimes. And this game was all 49ers. They deserved to win the game. What Deebo Samuel did out of the backfield was incredible. I was a little surprised he wasn't more involved in the passing game. But when you can line him up in the backfield, he had 10 carries for 72 yards and that big touchdown that put San Francisco ahead, and that put the game out of reach there in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's no sense in throwing him the ball on the outside when he's able to line up as a running back in the backfield and get 7 yards a carry. Elijah Mitchell, the 6th-round rookie this year, another big game for him. 27 carries, 96 yards, another touchdown for him. This 49ers team is just finding running backs off the street, plugging them in, able to do things. That offensive line is incredible. And I think, I like their chances in Lambeau next week, especially if that defense can get healthy. They lost Nick Bosa in the second half, I do believe, and then late in the fourth quarter, they lost Fred Warner again. So if both of those guys are healthy and at full strength, it's such a big blow to that defense to lose two of their best players on two important groups. I mean, Nick Bosa was all over Dak Prescott all night. Fred Warner making plays out of his linebacker position. And then I heard today that Garoppolo also now, in addition to the thumb ailment that he had coming into the game, also apparently hurt his shoulder in this game. So Garoppolo is going into Green Bay a little banged up. It'll be interesting to see how those guys can manage the pain. I think, Garoppolo is a tough guy. He's going to play. There's no way he's not going to be on that field with a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. But if those guys can get healthy and are able to go at full strength they play on, I think they're the nightcap on Saturday. I think this is going to be a very competitive game, especially if the Niners can establish the running game as well as they did against Dallas. Green Bay has been susceptible to the run at times this year. So if the 49ers are able to run the football as efficiently and successfully and get the big chunk plays that they were able to against Dallas, the play action with Garoppolo to those good receivers and George Kittle is going to be that much more effective. And I'm looking forward to that game again. Hopefully the divisional round playoff games are as exciting as the Cincinnati and 49ers game.
Yeah. So you're still sticking with the Packers for that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, 49ers are banged up right now. Green Bay is getting healthy. Aaron Rodgers is obviously the better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. And the Packers have already beat them once this year. And I think Green Bay is the better roster, the more healthy roster. And it'll be interesting to see how they do play coming off this bye. I know Green Bay has been a little sluggish over the years coming off bye weeks. So, Green Bay is going to have to come out. They can't fall asleep for a quarter or two against a 49ers team, especially not in the playoffs when you only have it's one and done. But yeah, I'm still sticking with Green Bay at home with Aaron Rodgers. I like them to win that game.
Yeah, I do too. I think we're both confident in picking our Green Bay, Tampa NFC Championship rematches again. So the one game that I believe we touched on all the other games except for we didn't talk about Steelers Chiefs, but that one didn't have a lot to talk about. Farewell to Big Ben. He had a good overall career. Definitely a Hall of Famer. Probably a first ballot. One of the best quarterbacks in Steeler history. Got the 2 rings. He obviously wasn't himself the last couple of years, but it's still weird to see him go since he's been there since I've watched football. So it's kind of like an eerie feeling, But farewell to him on a great career. The Chiefs were obviously the better team. At first, the Chiefs started off not too hot in the first quarter. And I was like, maybe the Steelers can take advantage of this. They had the T.J. Watt touchdown, and my hope didn't last too long for an upset because the Chiefs came out in the second quarter and got 21 points and just put a lot of pressure on Big Ben to lead that Steelers offense, and he's just not able to do what he used to do anymore. And after that, it was just the second half was pretty much just a snooze fest and a farewell to Big Ben at that point. So, so the Chiefs definitely got a little confidence booster there. Like I said, with these 2 seeds now getting wild card games the past 2 years, I feel like that knocks off a lot of the rush that they might have had, and having a bye week and kind of gives them that little boost because the Eagles and the Steelers didn't really provide much of a competition to their 2 seeds that they played. But I think they're getting hot at the right time. I think that if their defense can hold up, especially compared to good defenses like the Bills have, and I think that one's going to be a great matchup. But the Chiefs took care of business like we thought they were going to against the Steelers. Did you have any comments about that game, or was it pretty straightforward?
Yeah, it's one of those games. Travis Kelce throws a touchdown. The big fella from Illinois, Nick Already, catches a touchdown. Chiefs are just having a lot of fun out there, and deservedly so. I think everyone knew the outcome of this game, what it would be. I was a little surprised that the first quarter, like you mentioned, did go scoreless and Steelers jumped up on that defensive touchdown. They were going to need a lot more of those breaks to go their way, turnovers, and Kansas City just wasn't giving the ball. Mahomes did have an interception, but when you have 5 touchdowns and just the explosiveness the Chiefs offense can create at any given moment with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, their offense there's a reason they've been to back-to-back Super Bowls and won one of them. They're explosive. Patrick Mahomes is the next up-and-coming great quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, and I like you said, farewell to Big Ben, great career. Did get the 2 rings, easily going to be a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest Steelers of all time. I think the only thing that, just really quick, I think the only thing that he could look back on his career, when you think of how good some of those Steelers teams he had, especially with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, when they had the three-headed monster, I think he may look back on that with a little bit of regret that they didn't at least get another one. I know they did make it in 2011 when Green Bay beat them, but that was kind of the old Steelers team. Hines Ward was still on that team. But I think Big Ben could maybe look back on the tail end, a couple years of his career when Antonio Brown had that historic season. Le'Veon Bell was playing at an all-pro level and was committed to the game of football and not worried about the money and all the other stuff off the field. Same with Antonio Brown. I think maybe look back with a little bit of like, oh, what if, what if we could have a couple more things would have went our way. But other than that, I mean, Hall of Fame career, one of the greats. And yeah, it's going to be weird to see someone else under center for Pittsburgh next year. I definitely think he stayed in the NFL and came back about 2 years too long.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the guy's a competitor, one of the all-time greats, and it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to see him play for as long as he has and to put together the career he has for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point made too about the big three that they had. I never really thought about that. I feel like every year they had a good chance to. They ran into Brady in New England, and that kind of shut them down a little bit. But yeah, that was a really good big three that a lot of people kind of forget about because Antonio Brown obviously had his off the field stuff, and now he's just who knows what he is now. And and Le'Veon Bell really had a lot of issues too, and took that year off, and he's on Tampa too, like Brown was, but neither of them are what they used to be, and Big Ben obviously is done now. So big question mark with that. I think you're right about that, but definitely a Hall of Fame career. But the last one we have not talked about. Congrats to all the Bengals fans out there. Finally got their playoff win after 31 long years. A lot of people that watched the game weren't even alive when the Bengals won their last playoff game, and they go up against a feisty Raiders squad that really brought it all the way down to the end. It was a great kickoff to the playoffs to have that game be the starter. Burrow played pretty well. They got Mixon involved in the pass game a little bit too, and Jamar Chase just did what he'd been doing all year long, which he's able to. The combination of the speed and the footwork that he has, but he's also a tall receiver. Um, he puts it on display so well. Burrow was looking at Jamar Chase's route on the play and was like trying to figure out if he's going to get open before the play. Not necessarily picking the throw every time, but he knows that they have that connection. You'd see it on like if they run a comeback route that their timing would be like perfect because of their LSU days and this chemistry that they have together, and or even if he's running through a double coverage and is able to break free, like Burrow knows all these things about Jamar Chase, which you can tell it's really apparent on the field that they have this great chemistry together. Their defense got a little bit questionable at the end, but eventually held up at the goal line, stopping the Raiders from getting that one last chance to win a playoff game. They haven't won in a long time either, so they were looking to break their streak too. But this Bengals team, they stepped up when they needed to towards the end of that game, and I was happily impressed a little bit by some of the players that were making their first ever appearance in the playoffs for the Bengals, and were able to kind of prove any of the doubters wrong about this franchise. And now they've given that longest drought without a playoff win record to my Lions. So I get to hold on to that too with all the other baggage the Lions give me. But yeah, congrats to the Bengals, and I know you were awfully happy about it with your big prediction, and I was pretty happy too to see them win and break that streak. And it's always good to see a new team in the mix like that, and especially when they have a lot of very likable guys. That team doesn't have a lot of guys that you look at him, you're like, oh, I don't want to root for him. It's kind of hard not to root for a lot of those guys. I mean, Burrow's just got a great attitude about him, and just wanted to go out there if he's banged up and still play and give it all for everybody. And a lot of people, I remember there were in the broadcast of the game, they were saying that the Bengals had a pretty good free agency guys, a group of guys that came in, including a decent amount of defense, and a lot of them credited their reasoning for coming to Cincinnati was because of Joe Burrow and how much they believed in him and how much they wanted to play for a team that had Joe Burrow on it leading the team. And that just says a lot for a second-year QB who missed a portion of last year because of that gruesome injury he had. And just to be able to lead this group of guys and kind of take over from the jump, I mean, that takes a lot. So the Bengals got their franchise guy for a while as long as he can stay healthy. And it's pretty cool to see that turnaround for Cincinnati, for sure. And I think they're going to give the Bills a legit chance. Not the Bills, the Titans. Bengals Titans next week. I think they're going to give the Titans a legit run for their money. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on that Titans defense. The question will be the Bengals defense standing up, but I think they have a legit chance. So, what are your reactions to Bengals Raiders, and how do you feel about that game and the game coming up?
Yeah, I was definitely sweating a little bit at the end there. I thought Cardiac Carr was going to bring him down the field and do what he's done all year. The Raiders are so good in those one-score games, won so many games on last-minute, on last-second kicks and overtime. Of course, had that thriller against the Chargers in Week 18 to clinch a playoff spot when a lot of people thought, I think they're going to take the tie. Thanks a lot, Brandon Staley. But anyway, I think it's such a good point you made. All the guys on Cincinnati, so likable. They're so young. They're all coming up together. And this is just more great experience for this team. I don't think anybody expected them coming into the season to be the second, or to be the team to win that division. I think a lot of people had the house money on Baltimore, and of course Cleveland. Cleveland was getting Super Bowl favorite picks from the jump. I know I thought Cleveland was going to be a lot better than they were this year. Very, very disappointed in Cleveland. But, all credit goes to Joe Burrow. I think what a career this guy's had. Went to Ohio State, didn't even play a game there, transferred to LSU, had a really, I don't want to say bad, but down year his junior year, stuck with it, and then it all meshed that senior year, wound up winning the Heisman Trophy, national championship, set all sorts of records. That LSU team was absolutely stacked. I think that's, aside from some of those early Miami teams, probably the greatest collection of college talent that's made it into the NFL in a very long time. And yeah, it stunk to see him go down last year because he was putting together a pretty good rookie campaign in the games he did play. And then he's come out this year. I think he led the NFL in completion percentage at 70% a game, which is just incredible when you think about he's only a second-year player and really hasn't had that many NFL starts. And then to come into a playoff game, play as well as he did at home through 2 big touchdowns. And I think, the connection with Jamar Chase, those two are going to be special for a very long time. There was nothing the Raiders could do to stop Jamar Chase. Burrow was looking for him. Chase was getting open. And it felt like every time Cincinnati needed a big play, they were looking for Chase, and Joe Burrow was able to make the throw. That game was just really exciting. Yeah, it was. I think Cincinnati's definitely had some of the most painful playoff exits in recent memory. You think about a couple of years ago, that Vontaze Burfict hit on Antonio Brown. That was, I think, 4th down. The game was over. The pass was incomplete, and he hits him in the head. Pittsburgh gets a first down, kicks a field goal, wins the game. And to see that city get around this team, to see Cincinnati pull together, really hold on to win this game, thought it was going to get away from them late. They were trading a lot of 7s for 3s in the red zone. You can't do that. They're going to have to convert some of those field goals into touchdowns against Tennessee in the divisional round if they want to upset the 1 seed. I think they will. Like I said, I like Joe Burrow a lot more than I like Ryan Tannehill just in terms of quarterback wise. And I think this is just, even if I'm not saying Cincinnati's going to lose, but this is great experience for them. This was they were picking number 3 this year for a reason in all regards. 4, picking 4 this year for a reason in all regards. This was supposed to be a rebuilding roster, and for them to make the playoffs, win a game in only Joe Burrow's second year as a starter, I think it just hats off to Zach Taylor and that entire organization. They've drafted well, and it's going to be exciting to watch them keep playing. I think Joe Burrow is, with Justin Herbert, all those young quarterbacks, is going to be one of the good ones in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think we got a great young group of quarterbacks in this league, and um, I think the big thing for the Bengals, especially moving forward, whether they lose this next game and however for they make it in the playoffs, is that this young core really buys into the team and buys into not going to try and chase a huge bag on a different team or wanting to get more touches, just buying into the system that they have because they have a great young core building. I mean, throw some a little bit better O line guys on there. But the O line didn't even play terrible in that game. I didn't think they played decent, but
Yeah.
nothing crazy. But throw some better O line guys on there, and you got a team that can compete against almost anybody. So um, I think that this is a great young team that we're going to be hearing about a lot in the future. I'm still sticking with the Titans because my head says the Titans, but personally, my heart is for the Bengals in this one. So I'm a little bit torn, but I got to stick with what I picked before. Titans going to the Super Bowl and that still, but I think it could go either way. I think this is going to be a great matchup, and I think it's all going to be about these teams finding a way to exploit the other team's weakness. I think that if the Bengals offense is willing to exploit the problems that Titans can occasionally have on defense, then that could be a difference maker. And if Derrick Henry is playing anywhere near his normal self, and if they can get the passing game going for Tennessee with the amount of weapons they have, then that could be an issue too. So I think it's all about exploiting the other team's weaknesses, and especially in the secondaries. And I think the Titans are going to win it, but I would not be upset at all if the Bengals won. And um, I'm looking forward to that great game as well. So um, just to run it through, you have the Bengals winning, I have the Titans winning, and then we both have the Chiefs beating the Bills, right?
I
Or
that's such a that's
are you switching up now?
I I had the Chiefs losing in the second round anyway. Going with my heart here, going with my gut. I'm gonna still pick the Chiefs not making AFC Championship. I think it's gonna be Bills, Bengals in the
Mm.
NFC Championship game. And that could be fireworks all over the field if those
Oh
offenses are
yeah.
both clicking. I mean, I think the Chiefs Bills game is going to certainly be one to watch. Going to be glued to the TV at the nightcap on Friday, Sunday for that one. I'm excited to see. I hope both those offenses come in. Buffalo comes into Arrowhead and is ready to play. Both teams are ready to play, and it's a competitive game. No more blowouts. I don't want to see any more blowouts in the playoffs. We're at the time where there's only 8 teams left, the best 8 teams. Let's get some competitive games, and whoever's the best man wins.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're at this point now where the blowout should be pretty much over. I mean, I expected the first 2 games to kind of be lopsided in that first round, but now I feel like we got a solid group of 8 teams that really anybody could beat anybody on a given day. Maybe Sanford might be a little bit questionable against some teams, but I think anybody can put up a good game and be able to win against anyone. So I think that's what kind of makes this fun is that it's just whoever comes to the field that day. Um, we'll be able to take it home. But I'm sticking with the Chiefs, like I had picked earlier. I think that Mahomes is just gonna do a little bit too much to push him over the edge, um, and Kelsey's gonna do one of those late touchdowns in the game. It's just gonna burn the Bills at the end, and um, we'll be replaying in Bills fans' heads overnight. But um, yeah, I'm sticking with the Chiefs in that, and then we both had the Packers winning and the Bucks winning, right? Um, so yeah, that's how we're looking for the division round coming up next weekend. I can't wait to see how those all play out, and again, hoping for a lot better games than last weekend for a majority of them. But yeah, it was good. So, do you have any other comments about these games or anything that's happened recently with these playoffs, things like that?
Now, hopping back to that Bills Chiefs game one quick second here, there's that iconic photo of Stephon Diggs last year after the Bills lost in the AFC Championship game, kind of
Oh
standing on the
yeah,
field during
yeah.
Kansas City's celebration, going to the Super Bowl with the confetti falling on the field. Look for him to have a major impact in this game. Was surprisingly quiet in that New England game. I think he's saving all that excitement and the big plays for Kansas City. And that's the matchup I think everybody wanted in the AFC to see if Buffalo was ready to handle the test. They came up short last year in a good game. I think this Chiefs offense isn't quite. It's hard to say that after they put up as many points as they did against the Steelers, but I think this Kansas City offense has at times not been as great as they've been the last couple of years. And if Buffalo can play like they did against New England, I don't think there's any team in the NFL that can beat Buffalo. I mean, when your quarterback has more touchdown passes than incompletions,
Yeah,
it's going to be you're in for a long day. But I'm very excited about that matchup. I'm excited. I'm really just excited about all of them. We're down to the nitty gritty, like you said. Best 8 teams obviously are here for a reason. So whoever, and it's going to be. I mean, even if there's a couple upsets this week, I still think all these teams have deserved to be where they're at right now. And I'm looking forward to it. Going to be a huge weekend and a big weekend for some of these teams, especially some of those guys. Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, who haven't quite had as much playoff success as some of these quarterbacks who are mainstays in the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. I think this is a weekend where some of these legacies can be made for guys like Stafford, who are definitely not done with their careers yet by any means, but this is kind of their year to kind of make a statement, kind of prove to LA that he belongs there and he can lead them to the promised land. And I think anything past this point for the Bengals is a success. So I don't think they'd be too worried about that, but it's kind of one of those games where it can kind of prove how good Joe Burrow really is in these clutch moments, since he hasn't really had a ton of opportunities to do that yet. The Raiders are decent, but they're not near the top 3 in the AFC, in my opinion. But so there definitely is opportunities for these guys to go out there and kind of prove themselves and make some statements that might result in some bigger paychecks over the offseason too. So I think it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, it should be fun. So we're planning to be back on what are you thinking, Thursday or Friday or?
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, probably talk about hit up some NBA talk. We've been hitting NFL pretty heavy, but we wanted to squeeze the reactions from this weekend and the matchups and predictions for this next upcoming weekend into one, so that we could kind of get into a little bit of NBA. We're excited to flex our NBA muscles and show you we're more than just football over here. But
yeah,
I think hopefully maybe talk about who we'd pick as the All-Stars, biggest surprises of the season so far, biggest disappointments. Hopefully it could be some big news by then. There's always the Ben Simmons trade rumors, De'Aaron Fox. You've heard on the trade block in Sacramento, which good, get him out of there. He's way too good of a player to be stuck on that disgrace of a franchise.
Yeah.
Obviously the kind of an underrated trade was we'll say the Knicks picking up Cam Reddish, but we'll save that for Friday. Don't want to dive into that now, but yeah, that's coming either Thursday or Friday this week.
Yeah. That'll be in a couple days. We'll tweet out about it, so make sure you follow us on Twitter at GoneProPod, Instagram as well. We post about when the new episodes are dropping. We definitely post on Twitter more, but the Instagram is there in case you want to follow that as well. And we post the video versions of these on YouTube if you haven't already watched those. If you want to see us do the video, especially for last episode with the brackets, it'd be easier to follow along with that. Of course, the audio is on SoundCloud like usual. But Friday we'll come back, talk about some other stuff, see if anything changes as far as NFL, and then we're going to talk about NBA, kind of catch up to this point and see where everything's at, and can give our perspective of what we've seen so far as we get close about the halfway point with the All-Star break. And I think it'd be fun if we did our All-Star ballots on there too. So maybe we'll do something like that on the episode, make a little fun segment about it. But yeah, so keep your eyes looking out for that. And as always, thank you for listening, guys. We appreciate all your support. We've been receiving some messages and some love on our first couple of shows, and really appreciate everyone reaching out and enjoying our show so far. So that being said, thank you again, and we'll see you later this week.